Hey, Karen.
Hey, what's up, Cole?
What are we chatting about today?
Well,
What did you want to talk about?
let's like open and then do that.
All right, let's open, Karen.
Welcome to the Awakn podcast. I'm Gem.
You're a dork.
I am the author of the award-winning book, Be Unmessable. And this is Slate.
What's up, everybody? My name's Slate. I used to do construction. Now I'm an entrepreneur. I do a podcast with my mom. We're pretty cool people.
And today's price for admission?
I got to share it with somebody, and you got to tell somebody that you love them. Could be anybody.
That's nice. Yeah, sounds like an easy price to pay.
Hey.
So we were talking about, what do we want to talk about today?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about today?
Wow, where are you?
I am at our Texas property. We are building a cool backyard. I'll show you. We built a deck, and we've got a pool and a hot tub going in over there. And then over here is going to be like a volleyball court with like a mini golf or a chipping green or something like that. That'll be a good time.
Nice. That'll be really fun. That'll be really fun.
It'll be really cool.
I watched a good documentary yesterday. It was called Victoria's Secret Angels and Demons.
Ooh, that sounds creepy.
Yes, it is a little creepy. What was interesting about it, it was kind of like the story of Victoria's Secret from its founding by the original guy, and then it was bought by that guy Wexner. And then he is really great with retail brands like the Limited Express, stuff like that. And he, made it what it is today. But what was interesting is as it was growing, it started out as a company that was more catalog driven, so that people could buy lingerie in the privacy of their own home and have it delivered to their house. And it was very subtle, like meaning the sexuality of the women who were in the lingerie, it was somewhat modest. They would have like robes on and stuff. You couldn't really see anything.
Well, and this was the 50s when the company first came about, right?
No. I'm talking about when Wexner bought it. And I want to say that was in the 80s. I don't know exactly. I didn't, I wasn't paying attention to it for a quiz. But then it progressively became more and more risque. And what was interesting about that was its correlation, and that's what this documentary was kind of about, is the correlation was really had something to do with a parallel of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in the company or involvement with Wexner. And then it became progressively more risque. Now, they didn't say that specifically, that just kind of evolved as I was watching it. But seeing some of the models themselves talk about how it got to be where there was a lot of like sexual harassment, and there was where, I don't know, the models were not really treated respectfully. So there was a couple of the executives in the company that were men and were kind of like mistreating them. And I think what I found interesting was the progression into where it started, where Victoria was supposed to be like in her 30s, and this woman who was very confident, and she was from England and all this stuff that was like the play on who she was. And then progressively it got to the late teens of the 2000s, where their last fashion show that they did was with Justin Bieber, and it was very much oriented towards the teen culture, and all of the models were wearing stuff that was like popcorn and bubble gum and all of these like pillow fight kind of things. And the women executives at Victoria's Secret were talking about how it's like, we don't do that. Like when I get together with my friends, it's like, we don't have pillow fights. That is never a thing.
Yeah, well, what's really odd, I find, in today's culture is like this people trying to like I find it really strange that there's like shows and in shows that aren't specifically this, but like they try and sexualize younger people every year. I was
Yeah.
watching The Boys last night on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It's a show about superheroes, and like the main character is this guy named Homelander, and he's like this really psychological, like what's the word, psychopath.
Okay.
But there's this other character named Starlight, and in a scene they have Starlight as like a, I don't know, 10 or 12-year-old dancing and singing in like this really not risque outfit, but like just like uncomfortable to watch. And she's dancing, and I'm just like, why does this need to be here? It's just so uncomfortable. And then you get shows like what's that show on Netflix that's like all about little girls dancing?
Oh yeah, I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're talking about. I remember hearing about that. I didn't go there and watch.
Yeah, I find it to be really strange and creepy because I mean, I don't know if it's like trying to like make it normal so that like, I mean, clearly there's a pedophilia problem in the world,
Yeah.
right? And clearly there's a pedophilia problem with, all of, not all of, but the people that surround Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, what's the reason that it's in pop culture now? Like, is there a reason? Does it just
Yeah.
happen to be happenstance, or why? I don't know. I just find it really strange and super uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like what is it about, if you look at the Jeffrey Epstein thing, it's like typically older men, right? And they talk about these were all girls that got trafficked and into his sort of world, brought in, that were real young, and most of them were in situations where they were clearly not in power. You know what I mean? They were from difficult home situations and challenging lives where, $100 for a massage was just like an amazing thing that they got.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great. And they really loved it. But that uneven distribution of power, I think, is a really interesting kind of like draw for some people. And I think
For sure it is.
kind of like, what you're talking about. It's like, what is the draw to get set up with someone who maybe is not in that type of power that you're in? It's like, is that what does it, that you feel like so powerful, or because you could get something that maybe you couldn't get otherwise because you're in a position of power? It's like, what is that draw?
Well, I definitely think there's a power dynamic there that is probably pretty addictive, is my guess. Because I mean, when you think about like the warlords of the world over the course of history, they're not like nice dudes.
They're
They're
not
the
like
dudes.
nice dudes. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they're not nice dudes. They're like the ones that rape and pillage, and they
Right.
do their thing, and they're conquerors, right? And so I think if I had to guess, my guess is that there's still a little bit of that DNA in modern society, but there's no useful way to like use that skill set unless you're like dominating in a business market or dominating in a sport. And so you have these guys that all of a sudden, might be not the most dominant in XYZ area, but all of a sudden they can be dominant in this area, and then they choose to then, use their power in ways that subvert people and just
Yeah.
drag people down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like and you talk about, it's all self-centered. It's all
Oh
about
yeah,
them,
clearly. Yeah.
even in,
Well, and they're trying to fill a void. They're trying to feel better about themselves.
yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, it really speaks to the lack of like empathy that people have, when like you compare like uh just like a normal person to one of these guys. I mean, you're talking like a serious lack of empathy. I mean, I don't even understand how you can possibly even do stuff like that to people and sleep at night. I mean, you got to be so far down the rabbit hole. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're saying you're the person who is doing that is so much just thinking about themselves and not the person that they are taking the power away from.
Correct. I mean, like for a person like you to, let's say, let's say that you were in a position of power and you all of a sudden were like, somebody came up to you and was like, hey, I would like to have a girl for XYZ night, and can you get them for me? There's no doubt in my mind that you would never even, you know, allow that thought to be like, oh, I guess I could even look for you. I mean, it would just be so not in
Correct.
center with who you are that there would
Correct.
be no reason for you to do it. So all
Right.
of a sudden you have these people that, it's almost like there's like a power dynamic within the power dynamic
Yeah.
where you have the people taking advantage of the people, but then you have the people using other people's power to increase their own and decrease
Yeah.
others. And it's like this game that they play. It's really
Yeah.
weird.
Well, yeah, because it was saying that in the documentary, it was talking about how Wexner, as
Mm-hmm.
he was creating this empire, he was like a guy who was a Jewish guy living in Ohio, which, was probably challenging for him because there's probably not a lot of Jewish people that live in Ohio. So he grew up there and he had a pretty domineering mom and not a lot of, female kind of relationships in his
Mm-hmm.
life. And then he meets up with Jeffrey Epstein, and then suddenly he has access to all of these very powerful people, and they start doing business deals together. So, like, to your point, what you're saying, it's like he had the ability through someone else to get that power. And you were saying, yeah, it's like, what do you value? I mean, if your major value is power over everything else, or your human need that you're trying to fill, if your number one is significance and you need to feel significant and you put everything below that significance, filling that void, then
Mm-hmm.
you're probably opening yourself up to some really crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we're talking about like stuff in the United States. And this doesn't even count on, third world countries, Russia, China. I mean, there is some serious evil out there, even in today's world, that I think most people are just blind to because they're
Yeah.
not in the avenues of power that can even get them to shed light on it.
Right. Well, and I think too, people feel really, I know for myself, even, it's like, sometimes it's like, well, what can I do?
Well, there's nothing you can do.
You know what I mean? Well, I mean, in a sense there is, where, like you said, if somebody asked you to help them, then, saying no would be something that you could do to help.
Yeah, for sure. And
Or
I
if you
think,
see someone, like in restaurants or bathrooms or airports or something, and you feel like somebody is maybe being trafficked or something like that, you could help them out, or, somehow get them help.
yeah, that's always an interesting one because, like, I don't know, it would be really odd to see somebody you think might be being trafficked and then to like either say something or to, like call the police or something. I mean, you're definitely opening yourself up to some scrutiny there.
Well, you definitely could be. Yeah, you could have somebody coming to get you because you screwed up their plan to get somebody someplace else.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just really,
I think
it's
that's a
like a
hard thing.
no-win situation too.
Say that again.
It's like a no-win situation sometimes. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's really hard. Well,
yeah,
and I think that kind of speaks to you have to know who you are in order to like partake in certain things on the good side. Because, like, let's say, you saw somebody being trafficked. Well, and let's say you could guarantee that they were being trafficked. You knew it for a fact, but you also knew that the people that they're being trafficked by would potentially come and hurt you. You as a person have to be a person that is okay with, you know, potentially putting yourself in harm's way in order to help another person.
mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of people that would do that,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
true.
mean, there's not that many eyes out there just for sheer willful ignorance. I mean, people are willfully blind sometimes so that they don't have to deal with the ramifications of what's going on.
Yeah, or choosing not to help and then living with that, I'm sure is really difficult.
I don't think it is. I think it's much more easy. If
You
it was
think?
difficult, people wouldn't do it. Yeah, people do it all the time.
Well, don't you feel like when you, let's say you stop at a stoplight in Austin and there's like a
Uh-huh.
homeless person there, do you feel guilty sometimes for not giving them something?
No,
Okay. Well, I
no.
know, because I know you're the type of person who will give people some,
Oh yeah.
give them money and stuff when you feel led to do it.
Mhm.
Um,
But I think that's the point. Is like when there's something like your gut feeling is saying do it, and
mhm.
then you don't do it.
Yeah,
That to me would feel like I would think about that.
yeah,
But you know, I think I think it kind of boils down for me is that gut feeling where do I feel, and sometimes it's like a gut wrenching feeling like you better do this,
yeah,
and sometimes you try and ignore it, and then finally you're just like, fuck it, I'll just do it.
yeah. Well, that I think that goes to who you are at your core. You and I were talking about that the other day, remember?
Out on the pool deck.
Yeah, out of the pool deck. When you, I did that personal power with Kim Standeven, and it's where you're figuring out who you are at your core. And one of the, I don't know if this is the actual question that she asks, but something similar to it of kind of like, have you ever been in a situation where you just reacted without thinking, and what was that? And
Mhm.
you were talking about that time that you were driving back to the house, and you can tell the
Pulled
story.
that guy to the burning car. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
the
a wild day.
burning
That
car
was
on the side of the road, and you pulled somebody out of it. That's
yeah, yeah. That was definitely one time where it was more acting on instinct rather
yeah,
than anything knowledge based. It was just go.
yeah, yeah. What was that like?
Well, we were talking about it the other day. It wasn't that scary. Like I don't remember being scared at all. Um, I do remember. So the guy was in the left lane. I was in the right lane. I had a truck and a trailer on, and he must have like passed out at the wheel or something because he went into a construction zone on the left hand side of the road and hit one of those concrete pillars
Oh wow.
and just launched himself off of it and like launched himself and turned the truck like onto its side. Can't remember if it rolled or not. um I pulled over right away, threw it in park, and just ran over there and got him out. And there was people screaming, "The car's on fire! The car's on fire!" And we ended up getting him out and got him to the side of the road. And by the time the cops got there, the truck was torched, which thank God we got him out. So that
Yeah.
was pretty
Thank God
cool.
you were there to pull them out.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was just interesting. It didn't really feel like that big of a deal. It was more just like you were there, you had the ability to help, and you did.
Yeah. Well,
Challenge
that's
accepted.
kind of like what we were just talking about. When people are, if somebody was being trafficked or something like that, and you got that feeling to just help. You
Oh
might
yeah,
even think
for
about the
sure.
consequences of
I'm
could have
definitely the
happened.
type of person. Yeah, I'm definitely the type of person. If I see something, I'll do something, whether it puts my life in danger or not.
Mhm.
All I was saying earlier is that there's a lot of people out there that would not do that
Correct.
for self-preservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
and let's be honest, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I mean,
No.
that's your life. You get to choose if you want to put yourself in danger or not.
Yeah.
And I can respect the fact that if you don't want to do things like that, that's okay. Not
Yeah.
everybody has the capacity to do things like that in their life.
Right. That's not always someone's purpose.
And it's not always someone's purpose, and it's not a lot of people's skill sets because most people
Yeah.
have never built the skill set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
To have something dangerous happen and just be cool, calm, and collected. That's not like a really normal thing for people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I do often wonder where I got it from because it's not like we had like a really dangerous childhood or anything like that. I mean, we were pretty crazy and we did a lot of dangerous stuff, but it's not like, you know, we had people breaking into our houses or anything like that.
Thank God.
You remember the time that Jade broke into my room in Arizona?
I do.
That was a scary night. That was a scary
Yeah.
night. Yeah. I used to sleep with knives on my bed. I used to collect knives and I used to sleep with a machete in between my wall and my bed because I was like, man, if anybody ever comes in this house, I'm going to get them and I'm going to hurt them. So one day, my sister, she had snuck out and she sneaks out through my window, but I'm a heavy sleeper, so I didn't notice.
You're in like high school, right?
Yeah, high school, maybe junior year or something like that. And all of a sudden, it's the middle of the night. It's dark. I mean, pitch black. And I hear my window open in the middle of the night. And I see a silhouetted black figure open the window and start crawling through it. I screamed like a 12-year-old girl. I forgot all about that machete. I forgot about any sort of self-defense. I straight up curled up in the corner and screaming. And then Jade ran up to me and she's like, it's me, it's me. Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Oh man, I was terrified. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
That
Yeah,
was
she had
crazy.
been grounded and snuck out.
We were both grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were both grounded, except I was the kid that if I was grounded, I was like, whatever, I'll just be grounded. But she was not that child.
She was not. She's the oldest child.
Yeah, that'll tell you something. She
We
is
can get
fucking
her input
funny,
on this
though.
whole thing. I'm sure she'd be happy to give us the input.
Yeah, I'm sure she would be.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that was crazy. Well, and that night too, I remember you guys telling me about it much later. We used to sleep with our fan on so that we couldn't hear background noise kind of thing while we're sleeping. Well, it worked because obviously you were on the first floor, we were on the second floor, you screamed, we did not hear you.
Oh, yeah, I literally could have died in that house and nobody would have known.
Yeah, that's a creepy thought.
Yeah.
I'm not like
a lot of Skyrim in that house.
Yes.
Did you ever find that house to be creepy?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
What was your what was the most creepy house out of anyone we had, in your opinion?
Goes back. Remember that yellow house in Crystal Lake?
The small one?
No, the big one. It was like a big square box. It's the one where you broke the window with the ball.
The one where you left me behind to go to that concert?
Nope.
That's a story for another time.
Sorry for another parenting story.
Yeah, seriously.
Um,
Goal?
No, it's when Dad and I were split up and I rented that yellow house.
I think we're thinking of the same house, but I'm remembering it being really small.
Oh, no, it wasn't small. It was actually pretty big.
Were we in that neighborhood? Was Quiggy really fat at that house?
No, that was a different one. I know which one you're talking about. We've lived in a lot of houses.
Seriously. I don't know this yellow house.
Yeah, but that yellow house, that one was creepy to me. It was an old, like, not Victorian, but kind of old farmhouse. And it just had old windows and old floorboards and a cellar and plus I was by myself because, Dad and I were having a hard time. So I was living on my own. And then when you guys were over, you were there. But when you weren't there, it was just me. And it was definitely.
And it was creepy. That is funny.
That was definitely a different experience.
Yeah, no big strong man to protect you at night.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think when you think, and this is like a whole other conversation, but when you think things are going to be a certain way, like maybe something's not going right in your relationship, and then all of a sudden you're like, I just need to be out of here, or, it would be better someplace else or something like that. And then when you get to be on your own, it's very different than you think it's going to be. And I'm not saying it's like that for everyone, but it was for me. It was very different because I think you realize some of the things that once you're out of it, you realize the things that you do like in it. Mm-hmm. And the things that you're missing. And it's like you have a chance to weigh out the things that you're not getting that you want, and then the things that you are getting that you didn't realize you were getting, that you didn't recognize were really great once you're gone. So it's
almost like you had to lose it to see it.
Yeah, it's like you think the grass is greener on the other side, and then you get over there and you're like, grass seems similar and different at the same time.
When you were, so from the ages of you had us at 23, 24? You had Jade?
Yeah, I had Jade when I was 24.
So from the time you were 16 till you were 24, what percentage of the time were you dating somebody? Or are you one of those people that dated somebody and then broke up and then dated somebody again? Or were you one of those people like me where you dated somebody, you broke up with them, and then you don't date anybody for a year or two, and then you date somebody again?
Yeah, I dated pretty regularly. It wasn't long stretches of time in between. I would date someone and then there'd be a few months, and then it was I would date somebody else, and then
I see.
And then
that's most people.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do with a codependency thing?
Ooh, going deep. Well, I think it has. If you look at high school, it goes to, I would say, I was in the same high school all 4 years. You were not. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was kind of everyone's kind of dating different people, and who do you find and whatever. So, but I wanted to have a relationship. That was something I was driven to have a relationship. Mm-hmm. So I was always looking for it. And I would say also, I was trying to fill something that I was missing, male attention. That was definitely something that I was trying to fill, especially as a teen. And into up to the time I met Dad. Yeah, I had,
because
my dad's a great dad, but he was not a very
available.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of a workaholic, and he would work and then he would golf, and I didn't get much time with him, nor like interaction, real connection. I didn't really get. So I think I was craving that. And so I was kind of driven to find someone, that would, I think I just wanted to be loved.
Interesting. Yeah, because what I find interesting is there's a lot of people out there that like they go from one boyfriend or one girlfriend to another, to another, to another, to another, and they never spend any time alone.
Yes.
And then you're like, dude, you don't even know who you are as a person. I mean, when was the last time you asked yourself, what you think, or what do you believe, or whatever it is. And you find that those people that, or I find that those people that tend to date people like religiously and just go from one to the next, they lack like a certain depth of personality that other people have that have spent time alone. It's really interesting. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it is interesting how the people that tend to date a lot of people are so like, it's almost like they have like everybody's personality that they've dated like mixed in them, and they're like an amalgamation of all these different people. Very interesting.
Yeah. I'm a huge proponent. I've told you guys at different times as well to make sure that you spend time alone, whether like time living alone, being by yourself, because there's so much growth that can happen when you're by yourself. Just like you're saying, it's like you figure out what you really like, because it is, I mean, it has a tendency to be in a relationship, you're compromising, or you're doing what two different people want. And so sometimes you kind of forget what it is that you really want. So yeah,
I agree 100%.
Huge thing that what you want. I think it's really important too, that when you date someone and then you move on to the next person, whether you broke up or they broke up, or you both broke up with each other, to note what you really liked about that person, so that you understand what you value in relationships, so that you can get more of what you really value, rather than just, I think the people that have a tendency to go from relationship to relationship are just trying to fill something, and it's not proactive, it's reactive. And so if you get to the point where you really know what you're going for and what you really value and what you're, shooting for, you're much more likely to get it than if you're just, taking what you can get.
Shooting in the dark.
Blindly shooting in the dark too. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think people who, and it's not a judgment, but people who date a lot, I have a tendency to feel like maybe they're, and I'm talking about dating just like randomly. It's just like they're not really, it doesn't seem like they're trying to connect. It seems like they're just trying to kind of go through the motions, or
fill the void.
Yeah, fill the void.
Yeah, I see it all the time. It's really interesting. Well, and then you have the whole like hookup culture now that is like so different than like the 50s, where like back in the 50s, if you wanted to date people, you had to be a gentleman, and you had to, have this certain look and this certain, things that are not there today.
Right.
It's really interesting how like there's like a lack of connection in like my age bracket.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of times feels like there's not a lot of people that are trying to connect, even if it's for like just regular friendships
Mhm.
or um, for relationships with like a significant other. I mean, for sure, it was hard for me to find a group of friends that actually like to connect in, ways that are building. I mean,
Mhm.
my friend group, we go out and drink, but that's not like all we do. But I've hung out with other people that are like the only way that they're hanging out with people is if they're drinking or they're partying or if they're like doing an activity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, I think that's a great thing to do. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am saying it's important to also sit down and have conversations and learn what makes people tick and learn, what drives people's, life. And there's not a lot of that going on.
Yeah, that's for sure. Um,
Yeah. And then the dating thing is just even
yeah.
harder.
What's that like?
Well, I mean, for a guy like me that's really into connection and like emotional availability and vulnerability, it's hard for sure because there's just not a lot of women out there that I see that want to engage with that type of stuff. They're more just, I don't know, it's just a really heavy hookup culture right now. It's not
Interesting.
my thing. It's not my
Yeah.
thing. Doesn't do it for me.
And is that like what's the age group of that you're finding?
Um, Probably anywhere up to, I mean, I would say, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, but I would say probably up to mid 30s. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely still lots of people out there, and even more so with guys now. I mean, if you're a good looking, tall guy that makes good money, I mean, you never have to marry anybody. I mean, you could just go sleep around with, whoever you want, and, you know, that could be your whole deal.
Hmm.
Um, Now, there's a lot of guys out there that really enjoy that because I think it goes, to their masculine side where they're like they feel like they're conquering. Um, but like I said, it's just not for me. It doesn't do it for me. Um, but yeah, it is really interesting, very interesting, and very. It can be disheartening too, because like you know, I don't know, but it can be disheartening.
Well, yeah, because I mean, what's that like when you've met a girl, you're dating, however you meet her, whether it's on an app or in person or something like that, and then you start dating. How is that? Are you finding out right away that it's just hook up kind of thing? They're not looking to communicate or connect? How
Well,
does
I
it look?
really avoid. I'm pretty good at seeing beforehand, like
Mhm.
what type of person they are.
Yeah.
I don't do any of the dating apps. They're not my thing. Never liked them, so I just don't do them. And then, but like, I'm very good at getting to know people very quickly, just because I ask questions that I think are important questions to ask.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. I tend to not date people for very long either because I have a lot of non-negotiables. And
Okay.
if you've got, you know, things that you do in your life that I don't vibe with, then it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
So I have this really specific woman in mind. So it makes it hard.
I was
But
gonna
she's
say,
out there. I know she is.
it's good. You're going to keep searching, right?
Yeah, the journey is the search. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna make some good looking babies too.
That's funny. Well, that brings me to um, when you said you don't do the dating apps. On the dating apps, it makes me think of like going back to what we were talking about, the Victoria's Secret kind of culture thing,
Hmm.
the way that was, especially like in the 90s, 2000s. lots of filters. Do you find that, like, people using a lot of filters on dating apps, like where you are seeing someone and then when you see them in person, that's different?
I mean, there's definitely catfishes out there where, like, you know, somebody looks one way on their profile and then you meet them and they look nothing like how they look in person,
Yeah.
or on their profile rather. So there's definitely that, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't use the dating apps like a ton to ever see like if the filters are a thing. The one that I did use like for a while was Hinge, and Hinge, it's much more of a like, if I was ever going to use a dating app religiously, it would be Hinge. Hinge is the best one.
Oh,
Um, well, I think, why is it the best one? It's the least hookup-y out of all of them, I think. Now I know dudes that go on Hinge and fucking slay, so uh, take that with a grain of salt. But it's just, I don't know, it's better. It's hard to describe why it's better, but it's better. It's the best one. But also, you got to be 6 foot or higher to do well on the Hinge apps.
seriously though?
Hmm. Yeah, I heard a statistic the other day that was 80% of the women on dating apps have their filtered settings for 6 feet or taller. So that means if you're under 6 foot, 80% of the women are already fucking gone.
Oh, so they're setting their filter to only see guys who are 6 feet and taller, and then with other stuff.
Correct. Yeah. So
Wow.
like I have a buddy who's 6'4", and he has no problem using dating apps.
Okay.
If you've got 6'4" on your profile and you're as good looking as this dude, I mean,
So do you typically
no
tell the
problem.
truth on your profile?
Yeah, but I'm 5'9", so that doesn't work. Also, you can't fake being 6'2".
I would say it would probably be harder to fake being 6'2". Yes.
I just do a bunch of group photos with my friends with them all like squatting down.
Or they're sitting and you're standing and you're like, hey. That's funny. Well, it's interesting because like on the female side, right? It's like you have two sisters, and I'm sure you've seen over the years, it's like on dating apps or Instagram and all the stuff. It's like the filters for women are pretty prevalent, you know what I mean? And widely used, where your dad and I were talking the other day and talking about how that's really difficult when you're constantly using filters or faking, you know, how tall you are or whatever it is for a dating app. If you're constantly living in that place where it's not accurate, it's not really the truth, what does that do to you inside?
Oh, it would be awful for you inside. For
Yeah.
sure it would be. Because I mean, there's things in my life where I do, and sometimes I don't live in the full truth of whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it eats you up. For sure it does. So I can't even imagine. Now, I don't use any of the filters. It's just never been my thing. I
Yeah.
also have a really hard time spotting the filters because I don't follow a lot of women on Instagram.
Mm.
Um, so I follow mostly like business stuff and, you know, dudes that are savages and all sorts of other cool shit. So I don't really have like a feed that's like full of girls.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't really get to see the filter stuff all that much
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because here's the other thing: you get all these guys that follow tons of girls. Now, make no mistake about it. Looking at half naked women is great. It's a great time. Nobody's ever going to complain about that. But there is something to be said about like having that through your feed all the time, seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I don't think it's good for men. Number two, the person that you're following has no idea that you exist. And so
Mm.
like you're engaging with their content, but it's one-sided, you know. It's
Yeah.
not like, you know, you're following, you know, let's say you've got like a hot friend and, damn, you look good, or whatever it is, and they're, you know, saying stuff back and it's fun. It's not that. It's, you know, dudes, if you ever run through the comments on like these girls' photos, the comment section is fucking weird. It's weird as fuck.
Like, how
Because
so?
it's just a bunch of dudes in there that are like horny and got nothing to do with it. And they're liking these girls' photos. It's just uncomfortable. So that's not my game. I follow Tim Kennedy, Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman. Let's get some good content.
Yeah. Well, I guess that brings me to like OnlyFans.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that seems like I've seen some stuff about OnlyFans where it's kind of there's some people who have OnlyFans, so it's like a subscription thing. You could subscribe to different people, and then you get content, and you can also pay for special content, and it could be anything from, you know, a picture in a bikini of a girl to like porn kind of stuff.
Yeah, not porn, kind of. Full porn.
Porn.
Yeah.
Not porn, kind of.
Yeah, definitely not porn, kind of. Well, and the really interesting, so I had an OnlyFans. I told you I had an OnlyFans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had an OnlyFans for a while, and definitely fun, definitely an interesting thing to try out. I really had no issues with it. Like, as a guy, it was just, I don't know, I was really just doing it because I didn't have like anybody that like I wanted to send nudes to. So I just would post them on OnlyFans, and you know, I got my see me naked that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is the amount of money that can be made selling pictures of yourself.
Yeah.
It's staggering. I
Yeah.
mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely going to see issues with this in the future where, you know, um, women, girls, younger girls, you know, turn 18, and the second they turn 18, they start up their OnlyFans.
Yeah.
That cannot be good for people.
Well, yeah. I mean, where does that even go? I mean, you know, as a middle-aged woman, I look at that and go, okay, so that content is out there forever now, and
mhm,
people can see it. And if you're trying to do something else in your life, whether you have a different career or now all of a sudden you've found the person that you want to spend your life with, and now you've still got all this content out there and comments on your content that people can see, you know, how does that affect, I don't know how that would affect a relationship that you decide is going to be your
um,
forever relationship.
well, that's a good question. Um, Personally, for me, if I was to ever meet a woman and she had a problem with me doing that, that would not be my person. So
Hmm. Yeah.
that's just is what it is. But also on OnlyFans, you can delete an account and you can delete everything that goes with it. Now, you do run into issues when all of a sudden you're like posting like content on Reddit to drive traffic towards your OnlyFans account, or you're
Okay.
posting on Twitter to drive traffic. So then now you're on multiple sites. And if you're like, some of these girls have like thousands of fans.
Yeah.
And so dudes are always screenshotting and like posting it other places online.
Right. That's what
And
I
so
mean.
once you get into like that arena,
Yeah.
it can be tough because like even though you delete your account, there's still lots of it out there.
Yeah.
But I think in today's day and age, it's becoming so normal to like have an OnlyFans account or like to talk about it. And I honestly don't think it's like weird. Like I don't foresee like let's say I was trying to go get a job, right? At
Yeah.
some like at Twitter, let's
Yeah.
say. And you know, we were in the interview process and they said, you know, hey, you know, we see that you have an OnlyFans. I would be like, yeah, you know, I don't see any problem with it. You know, it's legal. There's nothing wrong with doing it. And if you
Mhm.
feel like you can't hire me because people see me naked, then you know this isn't the right fit.
Right.
Um,
Well, and I think it would depend
because
on which industry you're in, what sort of job you're trying to get. You know, I mean, if obviously you're trying to get a job where you're not in the public eye, different than if you're trying to be the face for a company and now you have this OnlyFans sitting, you know, in the background and they're like, oh, do you? Plus, I think too, this conversation feels like it's different for men than it is for women. I think there's
I don't see how it could not be different.
two sets of rules.
Oh yeah, I mean, with everything in society, there's always two sets of rules. I mean, let's face the facts. That is what is happening, and at the end of the day, I don't think that's a good or a bad thing. But there's definitely two sets of rules out there for sure.
Yeah, because if you know, it's kind of like the old way of looking at things where, you know, if a guy is sleeping with a lot of women, he's slaying it. I'm going to use your word that you used earlier. He's slaying it. And if a girl is sleeping around, it's like, oh man, she's such a whore.
Yeah, I don't have that particular view, but there are a lot of people out there that do think that way. So
right. It's interesting just to
it's
say
very interesting. It's the double standard for sure.
It's what?
The double standard for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm not a fan of my kids, I would say, making their living from an OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, feels a little risky saying it, but I mean, if they chose to do that, it's not like I would stop loving and supporting you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not
well, and I don't think it's healthy. Like,
yeah, I don't think it's healthy either.
I mean, when you get to like a level where like people are ordering custom content and all this different stuff, I mean, you're not like now, but once you get to that level, basically you're a porn star, right? Now, there's nothing, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what you want to choose to do with your life. I don't think so. I think that you have full agency, but also I don't think that a lot of people would align with that. But then you get other people on OnlyFans where, you know, they only post non-nude content.
Mm-hmm. And they do well.
And yeah, I was talking to a girl at a bar on Rainy Street the other day in Austin. And we were talking about OnlyFans. And I said, how much do you make a month? And she posts non-nude content only, and she makes like 60 grand a month.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so I saw something online. I read this article and watched this video from this girl who has an OnlyFans account, and she makes, you know, over 5 figures a month on OnlyFans consistently. And she said it was mainly the interaction with the fans is what people are looking for. They're looking for that interaction and
the connection.
Yeah, the connection, which is interesting. So it's like the mix of content and special content. And then she said the only way that you really make that kind of money on it is if you're constantly interacting every day with your fans. And that's the stuff that seems to me to be where the challenge would come in. If you're looking to have like a regular, I mean, mainstream kind of monogamous relationship with someone and have that type of intimacy, I would think that that would be difficult after you have interacted in the OnlyFans way for such a long time with a group of people from the opposite sex. That seems
I think that's
really difficult to make that switch into the intimacy of just one partner and having that come, you know, the majority of your connection and love and intimacy come from just one person. That would seem like it would be a hard transition.
You know what I just thought of is it would be really neat to find somebody out there that is doing that and ask them, have them on the podcast and see what they have to say. Oh my gosh,
that would be great. I would love that.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
You just pick their brain.
Ask them about all sorts of questions.
My gosh, we would love it. We would ask all sorts of questions.
Seriously, that would be fun and super interesting too.
Yeah. Okay, so if anybody knows anybody out there who has a really successful OnlyFans and then they transition to having a monogamous relationship afterwards, let them know about us and we put them on our podcast.
Or if they have a successful OnlyFans and they are also in a relationship at the same time.
Oh,
We would
yeah.
also like to talk to them because that seems impossible. I don't even know how you would do that, but I'm sure
Unless
there's
they
people
have an
out there.
OnlyFans as well.
Or maybe they're on their OnlyFans and it's like a partnership.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe, or even if they each had their own OnlyFans account. Wow. Are there people who are couples that have OnlyFans?
Yeah.
Couples accounts? Wow. That's a whole other industry.
That's a whole other industry.
That's hilarious. Yeah. It's very interesting. All of the stuff, the choices that we make, are they in alignment with what we really want for our life? And I think
Yes,
that's really what it boils down to.
I agree. And I think what's really important for people is to get alone and think about it. Like, instead of just being the person that's like, oh, I'm going to go make an OnlyFans account because I can make a lot of money,
Yeah.
which you can.
Right.
It's important that you sit down and you think, is this what I want? Play the video out. Is this what I want a year down the road? Is this what I want 5 years down the road? Is this what I want when all of a sudden my kids turn 25
Yeah.
or 16 and, all their buddies are finding my content online and they're talking
Yes.
about, your mom or dad, I've seen them naked. Are you okay with that?
Are you okay
know what I
with
mean?
that? Right. Is that the kind of vibe you want when you go to the PTA meeting? I don't know. Maybe
Correct.
it is.
And maybe it is, and
Yeah.
maybe it's not, but it is important for people to legitimately play the video out
Yeah.
because if you don't, you're going to get blindsided by things that you
Yes.
never thought you were going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, people need to get alone and figure out what the vision is that they have for their life, because so oftentimes we're in reaction mode to whatever comes our way rather than deliberately, intentionally creating a life that we really want.
Correct. I agree 100% with that. I think most people are in reaction mode and just taking life as it comes and they feel like they can never get out of it.
Yeah, it's autopilot. It's just what our
It's a
brain
shit way to live, that's for sure.
It can create a lot of problems, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and it's just not very fun either.
Well, it's not, especially not when you're not expecting, like you think it's going to be a certain way and then you're like, fuck, it's like, I can't believe this happened again. Or
Seriously.
what the hell? It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that is really funny. Yeah, it's got to be an intentional thing, which is what I think everybody needs to do. And I think it's carving out that time and space in your life to actually ask yourself those questions.
I agree. Where do you think luck comes from?
Luck?
Yeah, because I am a very lucky person. I'm lucky all the time. I might be the luckiest person.
Wow.
Seriously, I am super lucky all the time. But then I know other people, and you're like, how the fuck are you so unlucky? I mean, just constant things where it's like, this happened. Oh, this happened. Now this is happening. I'm just like,
I think it's mindset.
So you think luck comes from yourself?
I think luck is a vibration.
Whoa, you're saying I'm just vibrating in a different frequency.
You're just a lucky viber.
Seriously.
I do.
That?
I think, because when you're at that place, I used to work with a guy. I used to sell cars at one time for like 9 months. I sold cars.
You're saying for good old Honda.
Honda, yeah. I was a car salesman for 9 months. And there was a guy who I worked with, and he was, every time he got it was his turn up for the next customer, he would say something. What would he say? you're a lucky star, go sell a car or something like that. Like he had this saying, and he grew up in a family that was in the car business. So he like had this from being a young person.
Oh,
He was
that's hilarious.
always viewed himself as a lucky star. And he was always looking for the next sale. He was always looking, knowing that it was coming. So that's where I say it's a mindset, because he's looking for it. He's got his.
And was he pretty lucky?
He was one of the top sales guys all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, part of that has to do with growing up in a household where you learn the skill. But also, I think part of it does have to do with the outlook of I am a lucky person. Brad Lee has a podcast called Dropping Bombs. If anybody has not listened to it, you got to listen to it. He's got a great podcast. Brad Lee is a fucking G. But he's got this part in his podcast where he's like, I always ask this one specific question to anybody I hire. And I say, do you feel like you're a lucky person? And if they say no, he goes, never hire that person. Ever. Do not hire that person.
No, it's true.
Seriously. Because, oh my gosh, if you ever talk to people and you're like, are you lucky? And they're like, nah, man, I'm unlucky. This, that, and the other. And you're just like, get away from me.
Don't rub any of that juju on me.
Seriously. Yeah. I might be able to vibe for you, but I'm doing it way over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I think it's where you focus. It's where you focus your attention and what you're looking for. Because you can very easily look for the shit in a situation and
100%.
all the problems that could happen.
Always shit to find too. If you look for the shit is there.
You will find it. Yeah. But there's always great stuff too. And you just have to it's a practice. It's not like you are born with it. I don't think anyone's born with it. And some families have that taught in their home and some people don't, but you can always learn it, because it's really just training yourself to look for the good and noticing.
Yeah. I actually started writing, I've got Post-it notes all over my house. Like I've got them on my fridge. I've got them on my bathroom mirror. I've got them on my bathroom wall. I've got them next to my TV. And like I started writing them down. One of them is a quote from Green Lights, the book by Matthew McConaughey. That book is gas. That book is so good. And one of them is less impressed, more involved. That one was a great one, because I love being impressed by people, because watching somebody do something and it being impressive is like, wow, that's very cool. But you got to be more involved. So I'm getting more involved in doing shit. Another one is I am under divine pressure, because I am creating something that is in alignment with who I am, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm burnt out or I have no energy. I'm under divine pressure right now because something good is on the way. I saw that one on Instagram. So what's another one I got in there? I got some good ones. Oh, I've got one where every time I see it, I got to do 5 gratefuls. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people have those things in their house that remind them on a daily basis to do the things that make your mind work for you, not against you.
Yeah, totally. You have to utilize, it's such an amazing tool. I mean, your brain.
And it is a tool.
And I don't think the majority of people realize that you can program it. And if you don't program it, it'll self-program and you don't really know where it's going to go. So you have to take a hold of that and build that skill. And it can be cumbersome at first when you're not used to it. But once you get it, it's like, you can program yourself to do all sorts of really amazing things and get amazing things and get
amazing results. Yeah. What's the book by Joe Dispenza? Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, or Becoming Supernatural?
Well, both of those. Yeah. Becoming Supernatural, but Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is excellent, because it's really talking about that as getting off of autopilot or creating a different autopilot for yourself through meditation, which I think has been really helpful. Well, I know it's been helpful for me. But that's definitely one of the ways that you can get out of that habit of doing the same thing all the time.
The habit of being yourself.
Yes. So cliche.
Seriously. What was I just about to say? Oh, on next week's podcast, we should talk about I do mushroom trips where I take psychedelic mushrooms with people in places doing things. And we should talk about that on next week's episode.
Yeah, let's do that. Psychedelics.
Yeah, we'll do a psychedelics. We'll just talk about drugs.
We'll just talk about drugs in general.
Yeah, we love drugs. Drugs are fun. Drugs are a great way to expand your mind, people. And we're going to talk about it all next week.
Nice.
Tune in because it'll be
Tune
good.
in for next week.
Yes, I've got lots of experiences. I'll tell you about all of my experiences, and can still be safe and do it with people that you love. Have a great time doing it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But there are ones that you should avoid.
Yes, please.
That's a fact.
Yes, please. Yes.
So yeah, with that, if you guys want to like, subscribe, share this with a friend, tell somebody you love them, and drop some questions in the comments for us. We would love to talk about what you guys want to hear. And we don't know that unless you guys tell us what you want to talk about. Otherwise, Karen and I or Jem and I just sit and just bullshit back and forth. And we want to talk about what you guys want us to talk about. So leave that in the comments for us. And if you see anything that you would like us to start doing, or I don't know, have any content you'd like to see, let us know.
Sounds good. Peace.
Awaken out.
Awaken out. Thanks for joining us.